Hi, Lauren. Thank you for being here today.
Thank you, Maya, for having me.
I'm so excited that I get to interview you now. Sorry. Um, I've gotten to interview two other people so far on our team, and now we're going to go into your role and a little bit more about you so that our participants can get to know a little bit about Lauren outside of her job and inside of her job too. So can we actually start with you just like introducing yourself and go into like your role in our on track team?
For sure. So, my name is Lauren Nieves. I'm the supported education and employment specialist here at OntrackNY within Child Center. My role is pretty much self-explained within the title. I work with the participants in order to help align them and support them within their educational and employment goals. My role is also sometimes called the C's for short, but yeah, mainly I'm working to support them within their educational and employment goals.
Okay, thank you. And has the work that you've been doing so far been rewarding to you? And if so, what do you find rewarding?
I definitely do think it has been rewarding. I think any work that you're doing with and for other people tends to be rewarding, as you can see like the impact you have and your help and your support and your advocacy has on their life.
I love that. I also felt that answer. So, can you tell us a little bit about what inspired you to get into this line of work?
Yeah, just to kind of piggyback on what I said before. So getting into what I wanted to do with my life, I knew that I wanted to do like two main things. So one would be have impact on people or youth in specific, and then the second would be to be an advocate for those that tend to be overlooked or their voice dimmer than others. So those were the two main things that I had in mind when I was kind of like exploring in school and just in life. And that kind of brought me to where I am today.
That makes sense. So, can you actually speak a little bit more about that? Like, what was the journey like getting here? How did like you fall into whether the classes you took at school? Was anybody there to like guide you or give you like, hey, maybe you should look into doing this kind of work? Like, how did that go for you?
I would say definitely the journey was not the easiest. I think any journey has its seasons of like rough patches and all that. Like being in school and that kind of like roughing it out period where you're kind of like just pushing through for the bigger goal. It tends to be a very difficult one. But sorry, I lost my train of thoughts. The journey was uh, a difficult one. If I were able to give myself advice, it would be take a breath, right? You can do this. Take your time. I feel like I rush things often. Like I'm often like pushing myself to capacity at all times, and to appreciate the moment. And when you're in the journey, like when you're going to school during the day and working at night or opposite, it's very hard to appreciate the journey. But you're able when you make it through and you're able to look back, you can see like what an amazing job you did throughout.
Sorry, it's like having technical difficulties unmuting myself. But yeah, no, I feel like that makes a lot of sense. And I think that you speaking to like the journey being like the uphill battle and sometimes not being the easiest is definitely something that a lot of people on our team in general, like our team of who we work with, can relate to, but also the participants. It doesn't matter like what journey we're on, like what the journey to our career, the journey to recovery, the journey to just like figuring out who we are. Um, those are all moments that sometimes we kind of like take for granted or we get upset about until we kind of reach where we think we're supposed to be and we have that moment of reflection. So I really appreciate you for also kind of like throwing in some like advice or words of advice to yourself previously, because I think that our participants can also benefit from just hearing like, okay, let me slow down, let me appreciate it, let me like be in the moment, because that's really important. So thank you for that. So being that we work with On Track and mental health is like at the center of what we do, I was wondering for you, what has your experience with mental health been like, whether it's like if you want to speak to your own mental health, or if you want to speak to like your experiences with people around you, whether it's family or friends, co-workers, just like what has that been like for you? How has mental health kind of like been an integral part of your life, and like what experience have you had with it?
Right. Okay. I think I'll speak on my own behalf. Um, I can't say that I've ever had a labeled diagnosis. So when I do speak, I will just say I have struggled with periods of sadness. I wouldn't say I had depression because I can't say that I've clinically had depression. I have throughout school, throughout when the colder months, that's something that's a struggle for me. I'm more prone to sadness and like lower mood. And when with school and work and balancing everything, I struggle with feelings of anxiousness. I can't say that I have anxiety, but that's just something I'm aware of, and I just need to like kind of cope, build the proper coping mechanisms to deal with on a daily basis. And as I've gone through my journey, I've kind of been more self-aware to recognize, oh wow, okay, you may struggle with these feelings of more lower mood during these times, and this is something that's going to make you feel super anxious, so maybe doing some things that fill up your cup so that you feel better. Yes. And as for my family, I would say also definitely people in my family struggle with mental health, but they're coming from Latino background is definitely a big stigma, especially with the men in my family that struggle, won't seek help. So there's been, I would say many of which, only because I work in the mental health field, that would I say, that are definitely struggling. However, they are not diagnosed nor seeking help.
Yeah. So first off, I want to thank you for sharing that. I think it's very brave when people come here and they kind of just like share of themselves and kind of speak to like their family experience. And you said a couple of things that I just want to like comment on real quick before we go to the next question. Um, so one, like this idea of like not having actual diagnosis, I think is really important for participants or their friends or families or just people in general to kind of keep in mind, because there are spectrums, right? So you can be diagnosed, you cannot be diagnosed, but then we all deal with mental health as something we all have the same way we have physical health. But some people kind of have actual illness, like actual struggles. And just because you're not diagnosed doesn't mean that you don't still like deal with your own feelings and things don't happen that kind of affect you. So I think it's still important to like not put that label on ourselves, but know like, all right, I need to take care of myself, and like being aware of like seasonal affect, and like when winter starts coming around and it's darker, it's gloomier, and the days are shorter. Like these are things that I need to take care of. So I think that it's really great that you're super self-aware like that, and that you have kind of like highlighted those ideas for the people who are watching, because diagnosed or not, like taking care of our mental health is like really, really important. Um, and so that's actually the next question that I was going to ask, if you do want to go a little bit more into detail about how you do take care of yourself to make sure that your mental health is in good standing. Like, are there any things that are very specific that you do, or any things in general that you do that you would like to share with us?
For sure. I would say definitely um, you can't. So we both work in a helping profession, mental health field, things like that, and you can't help others, or you can't pour from an empty cup. So one would be for me just recognizing, okay, this seems I'm off. I'm struggling a little bit. So the first step would be when I recognize that, how do I cope? So normally I would immediately like take some time for myself and do some self-reflection, whether it's journaling, even resting, taking a nap. Let's start again in 2 hours. Let me rest this off. Doing just things that I love that make me happy, whether it's like taking a pause from work, putting on some music and dancing around my house until I feel better. And then I can come back and I can refocus and I can do my job or much better. Getting outside works well for me, whether it's walking, running, whatever, walking outside with people that I love. And then like to connecting with people I love is something that's big for me. But when I'm struggling, I tend to withdraw. So I need that like time alone first before I could connect with others.
That makes a lot of sense. And that also speaks to how self-aware you are and knowing that you need to take care of you before you can do other stuff. And you need to get back to you before you can do other stuff, whether it is connecting with people and people you love and doing those things like taking a moment to just dance around your house, which by the way, I love for you. Like now I'm imagining you doing it and that's so cute. I love that. So thank you for sharing that too. Our next question is, what hobbies do you have? So are there like any secret talents you have that we don't know about? Anything that you've been into that we don't know about that you would feel comfortable sharing with us?
Sure. I can't say that I'm secretly talented, but so I would say that my hobbies would often include some kind of physical activity. So I was like brought up being very active. I played a lot of sports growing up and for most of my young adulthood for to a while, and I still play like recreationally, basketball, volleyball, a lot of things like that. So when I'm feeling good, I'll be doing a lot of physical activity. Or when I want to maintain that feeling of good, that's how I keep myself up. And those are always hobbies of mine. But if I need something like lighter, I'll do like I want to be physically active, but I don't have it within me. I'll do like yoga. I'll go for a walk. I really like to read. I really like to cook. I'm a foodie. I love to try foods. I love to go to restaurants and try different foods. I'm really big into like holistic wellness, like the mind-body connection, the idea that if your physical health is not well, it would normally take a toll on your mental health and vice versa. Friends, family, just things like that.
Okay, cool. I love that. I love that you are a foodie, and I wish we were not living in a pandemic because I would love to just be like, hey, Lauren, let's go try some new food. I miss physical connections as well. And I definitely miss you. We used to share an office.
Such a small space. That is not COVID friendly at all.
I definitely look forward to our like new future, our new normal, whatever that looks like, and being able to like connect with you again and doing those things. And I think it's cool that like one of your other hobbies is reading. I also love reading. So that's cool to like be like, oh, we have that thing in common. That's cool. Yeah. Thank you for sharing that. So I'm also interested in knowing, do you have any things that you do to keep yourself laughing or smiling? And I've heard like a wide range of answers to this question. I also pose this question to participants when we have group, because I'm always interested in knowing like, what do people do to cheer themselves up or to keep themselves laughing? So I'm interested in knowing that for you as well.
So one thing that's like a sure shot way to make me laugh, because kids are just funny, and they're just so innocent and just like always bring life into a room. So when I'm feeling like really low, my brother has 3 kids, all under the age of 7. I have 2 brothers, but the one that lives in New York has. So I will normally just FaceTime one of them, and just communicating with them is I will be laughing because they say the funniest things, and they're just like nothing ever makes sense. It's like, what's happening? But it's funny.
Okay, cool. I love that. I agree. I feel like kids, they don't have those filters yet. Like they don't have those barriers. I so often find myself wishing that I was a kid again, or that I had more children around me. But I'm really glad that you have that avenue in your life that you can like connect with. So that's great. And so now we are at our final question. And our final question is, what is the one happy memory that you think you will take from 2020 into your future? I know that this has been a really rough year, a hard year, a year of so much like loss and change and other words that I should not use because they're inappropriate, but you know what I'm getting at. So
Yeah.
what can you take with you from this year into the future that is not those negative things?
I will definitely agree with you in saying that 2020 has been the biggest struggle year, I think, of my life. Well, let me not say that, knock on wood, because you never know what God has in store. But I would say I don't have a specific memory that I will be taking with me to like bring me a light, but the word that I would use that will be used for 2020, like, or my thought process would be grateful that despite all that 2020 has been, I am still, for the most part, healthy, capable, living. I have everybody that I love is safe, has a home, has a job. And I have a job where I'm able to do the things that I love with people that are also passionate about doing the things that they love. So I just feel blessed.
And I think that is a very important way to tie this whole thing up. I asked this question because, like I said, I know it's very hard to kind of like think of the good things, and it's very like easy for us as humans in general to just be like, oh, this was such a bad year, and like think immediately of all the things that have gone wrong, whereas it's a little bit harder to kind of think of the things that we can be grateful for. So even though you don't have a specific memory, the fact that you can still take that feeling of gratefulness, despite everything that's been happening, I'm one, happy for you that that is the case, that your family as well, everybody's doing okay, you're doing okay for the most part. But also just, yeah, like taking that feeling with you and knowing that you have things to be grateful for, I think is a really important point to kind of harp on. And our participants will hopefully watch this and think of the things that they can be grateful for. I know that I'm constantly reminding myself of the things that I'm grateful for, because unfortunately, like, I've experienced loss in a bunch of different ways, but I'm always just reminding myself of those things to be grateful for as well. Like, I feel you on that. Like, I get to work with people who are passionate about things that they're doing. And that's really important. And it constantly inspires me to come up with like new things like this interview series, or to find new ways to connect, like we've been doing with like our wellness check-ins at our staff meetings and stuff like that. So I'm really grateful as well. And I'm grateful that you were here today to do this interview with me and to do this interview for our participants. So this will be going up on our blog soon. I will make sure that you have access to it before I put it up. So thank you again for being here and for sharing all of this.
Thank you. And I know that I can speak for on behalf of all of our team that is so proud of you and all the work that you're doing.
Thank you. All right, love, I shall talk to you later.
Okay, bye.